the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm in the wrong place. In closed session, the governing board received advice and recommendations from legal counsel and staff regarding the Stanislaus County Grand Jury Report, case number 22-15GJ. The board approved a response that will be filed with the presiding judge of the Stanislaus Superior Court on or before September 16th, 2022 in Modesto, California. When the response is filed with the court, it will become a public record. Okay. Also, the board voted 5-0 to approve a resignation agreement with a classified employee. Okay. Public communication agenda and non-agenda items. Any person wishing to comment on agenda and non-agenda items may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes. California law prohibits the school board from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the board. Per board policy BB 9323, individual speakers may be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board may limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the board? Thank you. May I have approval of the agenda, a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. Information discussion items. The State of the School Workshop Review.
Yeah, so it's item 3 on the information discussion item, but our student board rep will be here, I'm pretty sure, but it's not here yet. So we're going to wait for her, skip her and come back to her. And I understand we're waiting for Mr. Weinberger for item 2. So we'll gladly jump in. Mention her name, she shows up. So I'll go ahead and do my report, and then you can jump in after so we don't get you situated. So, oh, you're down. You're all the way down. We switched it up, Julian. Sorry. So this report is the report back from our workshop we had August 31st about the state of the school report and the work we did on that day. And this project's been an evolutionary project. It started as looking for data points, and then maybe we changed the way we were going with that into study questions. And this is what we came up with to honor, I think, what we were looking for in the answering the question, are we providing the best educational experience as possible for our students, which was what we're looking to do, is how do we know if data that we own that we're providing the best educational experience possible. So like I said, we met on August 31st. We had board trustees, administrators, teachers, classified employees, students, all collaborated on this purpose and question. And we came up with 6 categories that we were going to examine with several study questions under each category. So what we originally were thinking, we were going to say, maybe academics, we know we're going to do a good job in academics because we're going to look at these 3 data points. We really came up with 3 study questions. So instead of looking at those as data points, because the study question is not going to be done justice if we look at one data point within that study question, I propose that we actually schedule the year's data talks around these topics and these questions, which would then give you and I've got them for you here and during this presentation, a complete schedule from September, actually from August through June, of what the data talks for discussion information items would be each month and what month they would be, if that makes sense. How I see these functionings, and I'll pass these out at this time. How I see these functionings is if we agree on a consensus tonight, beginning in October, we'll start having the data talks. And in each board agenda, you would have for items under future discussion, you would see next month's data talk questions or topics as kind of a remembering point of what's coming up. And so you get the board agenda on Friday for the Monday meeting, and you would be able to see, okay, well, besides the calendar you now have in your packet, we were going to talk about school safety next month. I don't know what's actually October 1. I just gave away my copy too. Thank you. But that would give you time in the September meeting then to say, if you have a specific question you want answered in there, a specific piece of data you want, or an item you want addressed, to say, I'd like to see next month data talks include this area as a subcategory to that. Does that make sense? What I do want to point out is that's the deadline day. Okay, that today, like if we already had it in place, today's board meeting would be the deadline day to get that information from you for the next one. That gives us 20 work days to gather the data, put together the report, prepare our presentation. And that's not the only thing we do Monday through Friday during business hours. So, if it's the information comes later in that, we're going to have to respectively remind you that you're asking us to hit a moving target at that point, because we need those 20 days to extract the data from our databases to again, put the reports together to make sure we have a coherent report for you.
So, Mr. Posey, for October, if anyone has something that they would like, may they have it by Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah.
Or Friday.
as it's functioning, it would work that
Right.
way. Today is obviously a little different because you don't know what they would be. We haven't even narrowed them down yet.
Right.
So, but I was just saying, if it works correctly, that's what that item for future consideration should be used for. If you were to see
October is professional development, effectiveness, and change.
either professional, we're going to do a report on how we do professional development, how we make sure it's taking hold inside the classrooms. So if that's something where you might have a specific interest in and say, oh, I really hope that includes our classified as well as our certificated, we would make that note. We would do that for those 20 days. We have 20 days to work on it. If we get like an email 2 weeks from now, oh, could you make this? That's tough because we have other things going on during the day too. So that makes it real tough to throw that in late. So I do ask that we honor that. Something we agreed on in the Good Beginnings workshop too. So the other piece I see happening on this is we're going to end up with a report on the 6 topic areas that we decided. I'll review those in a second. A physical report. I could certainly see the QR code for each of the slide decks being part of that report. So anybody that reads a summary of what we discussed could scan the QR code and get the whole spreadsheet, right? Or the whole PowerPoint presentation right there. And that would be part of the printed report at the end of the year. So I think it could make that report almost like an accordion. If you just want to read the summaries, you got it. If you want to dive in deeper, you can scan the information is right there. So the categories we came up with was staffing, which I renamed to personnel. I like that word better, I guess. Relationships, equity, rigor, academics, facilities, and relevance. Those were decided on August 31st as the 6 categories. So no action at this time. Under personnel, there was actually 4 that remained on the board, the Post-it note on the wall to be decided on, and we agreed there would be a maximum of 3 of what you would report on, and those 4 were professional development, effectiveness, and changing instruction, employee compensation comparison, which I'd see happening twice, once in February at the Sunshine Agreement, and then once upon ratification, because that's where the compensation would change. So actually it'd be three, if I think about it, because we never ratify the same with both bargaining units. So it'd probably be a certificate classified together in February when we sunshine. And then when we ratify each of the contracts, we would come back and say, this is what the salary adjustment did for our comparison. Staff wellness, mental health awareness month is May. I learned that last year. And so I see that being a great May presentation. And then you asked for what % of our positions are staff. So what I would need from the board, not an action item, but a consensus or discussion on this, is we really need to narrow this to 3 because it's already going to be a lot of work. So if we go above 3, it's really encumbersome. And I say 3 is pick a maximum. We don't really have to get to 3 if you don't want to. But you can have your conversation now, discussion about if we want to narrow that down from, or which one you want to narrow down, or if you want to narrow down 2 or 3 or however many.
I think the professional development is something that's really important to me. I think if we're going to move the district in any particular direction, that's how we I am going to make a commitment that we are not going to replace all the people. So we have to have a bridge between whatever we're doing today and how it, with the same people that I'm committing to being here with the same people, that professional development is how you make that bridge to doing something different and seeing different results for our kids tomorrow.
For me, staff wellness is extremely important.
Well, we all have, as you know, you know as well by now, we all have our own special interests and directions that we're going in. You know, as a board, we've actually made pretty nice over the years that we've agreed. They decided not to give it.
Oh, it's to your left.
Over the years, you've learned that each board member has their own set of priorities. So I think just going down the list, touching them all, you know, is a good thing. You know, we've all played nice. We've all politely listened to each other's, you know, ideas for what makes a good school district, and we either agreed or didn't agree. So let's just, you know, continue that process.
So I'm hearing keeping all 4.
So, yeah. So I agree with what he said, and he agreed with what they said.
We can always drop one later if we find that we're not that interested in it.
You
How
know,
about that?
I want to support Superintendent Posey on this one because this is a long list already. In my opinion, we're going to narrow this down in years to come. I kind of feel like we should buck up and
This is a huge undertaking.
it is. It's a huge undertaking.
Especially for the
I
staff.
mean, if you look at if I was to get ahead of myself and look at if they all stayed on, I've got it listed to you, the same information, but by month. And you're looking at 2 data talks every month. They're probably going to be 20 minutes in length, and I'm going to guess represent between 40 and 60 man hours to put together in those days, or people hours, sorry. Some have 3. Some have 3. And I appreciate that we make it look effortless to put these things together. I can tell you that the 31st workshop on the 31st, easily over 100 hours of work into that, preparing for that. So I think we could, I think personally, what I would suggest is we could move that last one on the list to not a information discussion item as much as an item of the personnel report,
Yes.
where, you know, on the months you need to know that aren't above 90% staffed. Yeah, we got a lot of open positions right now in this, or if it's an area you could ask that question. We have a board in the office that keeps us apprised every day. I walk past it and I know exactly what positions are open and when the interview process is. And I can tell you we have about 11 open positions right now because I remember walking by it. I don't know if I was actually in the office today, but last week it was a busy day. We was running around a lot today, but for the actual report though, I think that to do a monthly information item report on that would be taxing. But we certainly could throw it in as this is the percent, or this is how many open spots we have, because we can look at the board on the way over and count them.
Mr. Posey, since we have to make a comment, one of the board members or all of us, about what we'd want to know about if we look and see in October, social emotional, possibly, especially if something happened, or the professional development, if we're not asking for it, then you already know a month in advance. It's not something they really want, but remember, that means if it comes to be February and that's not on the list, you have to wait unless it's really an urgent type thing.
I don't think you would have to wait, but if you recommend it, I would like it to replace something that was.
Right, yes. No, I don't mean just throw it under the rug. But I know that times, especially when you hear about test scores, that's when someone will say, oh, why did the math do this? Or why did the reading do this? And find out what the testing showed.
Would that be okay for everybody if we just added the personnel piece to the personnel report, just a percent?
Yes.
That makes-
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes me happy.
And
Thank you.
Definitely for me, speaking as 20% of the opinion up here, if you've got something like a board on the wall and there's 11 open positions, especially if Kim just won the lottery and one of those open positions is the assistant superintendent, I think that I'd rather just hear that. I don't want you to go through and do a report and come up with it, how many. If there's something simple there that gives us a pulse, please don't go digging up another report if we can find a piece of data that's in your bailiwick.
I think we can work with that. I love this so much. There we go. Relationships. Thank you. You only gave us 3. So yeah, we have social emotional learning programs with goals and actions of them. We have that slated for next board meeting. We had student connectedness to campus. We have that on December. And I put that out. We still have to define what that is, but we can do that. And that would be something we'd want to talk about the month before. This is how we're going to define that under the items for future consideration. And then the capacity and usage of parent volunteerism, which we just did do a in-service on. So we're really excited that made the list for March. So there's no real action to take there for those 3, unless you want to cross one off, but I've heard you don't, so we're not gonna go there. Next one is equity, and there's 4. We really need was to narrow this down to 3. A presentation on the elective offerings at NCLUSD, which was scheduled for April. That's just about the time when we have all of the ballots, or we'll have all that ballots counted and we're starting to schedule. So it'll be the best time for us to know what the electives both we offered that showed enough student interest to keep. Okay, so there's 2 factors to that. Equity amongst all demographics in terms of access to academic and social achievement. It's really important. We have that slated for, I didn't think of this year. August we might amend it for this year, but normally that would be a great August topic as we start the year, showing the equity to that. Equity and availability, extracurricular or co-curricular activities. We have that slated for January. And then academic readiness at middle school and high school. This was one that I put on there, Vern, because I know it was your voice a lot. And it's particularly looking at how the promoting 8th graders do, and then how the non-promoting 8th graders do, and what's in intervention for them to be successful at the high school. So
Again, and some of that we're seeing, we've been doing really, really well in our reading programs. I mean, we've been working at it for quite a few years. We're looking at other test scores and seeing some other programs that really need some work. So it's not going to happen like we asked to talk about it next board meeting, and then all of a sudden it's going to be okay. It's an ongoing process. It's a growing process that we have to learn and find out what our staff is doing and their input too.
Is the equity among all demographics in terms of access to academic and social achievement, is that just restating the same thing that we have in the other three offerings?
I think when the conversation happened, it was about, this is the area I think was one of your key points, that are the kids who are ready for advancements getting advanced, and is it equitable amongst everybody, or is it, not equitable amongst all? Could I pick demographics who aren't included in the advancement group, and is that because of something going on in the educational process? I think it was a study into that. Possibly we could combine those into a scheduling. As a tough one. That's a tough one. Honestly, all four of those I could see not wanting to not do any of them. It's just understand the really understating how encumbering it is for the staff, because it is a lot of work to pull these points. We're talking multiple data points, multiple questions for a study on that.
Also, Paul, when I look at both of these, I think of students, like Jolene or Miss Vash. Has she been hearing from the students like, well, I can't get this class or that, and hearing that, now what can we go about? Because sometimes, if you have a questionnaire, people just go, it doesn't pertain to me, but possibly Ms. Bosch's information will add to that without having a real detailed, like if he's hearing, we don't have an advanced history class so that we can go on to college and do this. Can we get this into the program? What do we have to do it?
And it is possible to combine maybe the extracurricular, co-curricular with the electives.
Mhm.
And it's just, you're just going to get less information on all of those topics, as we're going to try to target that to be a 20-minute presentation each.
Or even
That might be the way I would recommend to go.
right.
If we did that, then you're talking about the clubs, the co-curriculars. I can envision the dual enrollments being brought up at that time with local junior colleges. I could see them what the elective offerings are. Remember, the goal is we're not just identifying problems and highlighting them, but we want, and you'll see tonight, to give you information that if someone comes up and goes, well, they don't offer AP US history or something. Yes, we do. I just had a presentation on it. I know they do.
Right.
And that's the purpose, is that make aware of what we are doing and what our future plans are. And what we're starting to do with these talks is to give you a little one pager too of the key talking points, like what we think is the key information that we hope you take away from the presentation. As we do know, as the hours turn in these meetings, retention may drop as the hours go on. And so it's kind of like a study guide or a little key one pager that lets you go, oh, okay, this is the meat. I hope when I walk away, this is what I can speak about in an elevator conversation type thing. So that my recommendation there would be to combine 1 and 3 on this one, and go that way. Okay, thank you. The next one, should the clicker god be nice? Yes, he is. Academics under rigor, first teaching effectiveness, vertical progression of curriculum instruction, TK through 12. And then 3 times a year, I-ready diagnostics results. So that's pretty self-explanatory. And I appreciate your work on that. And then facility master plan. That one actually is one that won't happen every year, because you won't do one every year, but we have an outside agency come in and do it and tell us about our growth, and they come in and present it. And so we might catch a or we have 4 in another if may catch some leeway there. School safety presentation in January, not to be confused with the school safety plans, which come to approval in like November, but school safety as a general topic, student wellness, how they feel safe on campus or areas of need. And then November has the facility inspection tool, which is something we already do. That will be in there. And then it's actually a facility, and say it's an actual tool that Matt goes around and grades, and we get a numerical grade on a qualitative. And then relevance is we're looking at graduation rates and college career readiness. We're looking at differentiating students' academic needs, and we're looking at NCLUSD student involvement in co-curricular, extracurricular activities. It's not just what we offer, but what % of the students are actually do. One will tell you all of the co-curricular or extracurricular activities. The other one will talk about how many students, what percentage of students are involved in something that is not that. And that could be combined too, I guess. We could make that all one presentation. I would really want to do that one. Here's why I think we keep them separate. One's going to tell you what they can do. So in January, if someone says my kid's not involved, well, this is everything they could be involved in. And one's going to say how many kids were involved, which needs to be in May, because I won't have that data point until the clubs have happened, the sports have happened. So I think by keeping those separate, it gives you the power to be a foot soldier, if you will. If a community member was to come up and say, I wish my kid could get involved, but they don't have anything. Well, this is what we do TK3, this is what we do 4-6. So that's the result of the workshop. And then I have the same data for you, and I'll cross off the ones that we crossed off or combine the ones by month. So it's to keep it, if you wanted to put that on the file cabinet or on your refrigerator or however you want to remember, and it'll be reminded on the items for future consideration as well. Thank you for your effort in that. I found the 31st to be one of my best days in education in a while. It was fun to talk with everybody about philosophy and about what our purpose. And I appreciate both students being there, and the insight given was remarkable. And so thank you all. It was a fun day.
It was rewarding because we had all factions of our district there, including our clerical and just everybody. It had CSEA boards. Yeah.
Student.
Do Jill. So may we have your report now? It seems so far away.
Yeah, the people, the seat has changed, but if you're down at this end.
Yeah, you got promoted to that side of the bench.
So, can everyone hear me? Okay, last week our school was very accommodating in regards to the heat wave. Our fire drill was postponed due to unsafe conditions, and games were either postponed or moved to a later time in the day if played outside. On Friday was our annual Powder Puff game, and from the likes of it, everyone enjoyed their time spent showing school pride. Homecoming week is October 3rd through 7th, with the parade taking place on Friday and the dance on Saturday, October 8th. The theme is Warriors Go Old School, and for the float design, each class will choose an old TV show from the decade of their choice. We are excited to have our float building on campus this year, because last year we all had to drive to a location kind of far from our school to work on the floats. And our ASB members and advisors are organizing several team bonding events, of which will consist of Connect 4, bocce ball, ice skating, and possibly more. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Unaudited, Mrs. Oh, do we have?
We're back to CSU.
Oh, we've got CSEA awards. Okay, here we go. CSEA awards.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, there. You've got
I just don't really need it, but Since I'm the one that's leading it off and I'm short and the podium's pretty big. All right, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rhoda Murray. I am the CSCA Award represent person. I hadn't planned to talk. I thought Adam was going to do all the talking, but we are super, super proud of our very own Brittany. We have two Brittnys in here. Brittany, raise your hand that I'm talking about. It was really hard for me to contain myself in Vegas, and being that she was so close to me, it's a great honor to be nominated for this award. And Brittany is so outstanding and she's done so much for this area. We just really felt like she was just that one person that stood out amongst everybody. And because this is Area E and this is my area, I really looked into like everything that she's done. I was like, no, she did this. No, she did that. No, hey, she's went over and beyond. And I was really proud of her. And even as I read the application that was sent in, 2, 3 were sent in. And I was like, see, compare the 3 applications. She is one of the top people who go out in the community and do everything. And the mental health is so important right now that she just went out and she just gave her all in everything. And then going out and helping a coworker, taking the time to go out and help a coworker outside of her time. That's what CSCA is all about. We go out and we do go over and beyond. And Brittany, boy, oh boy, and she has my daughter's name too. So I'm like, so I'm super proud and I'm here to present Brittany. You guys have the plaque, right? All right. There you go. Brittany, on behalf of the CSCA, you are 2022 Member of the Year for our Area E. This is Brittany Clark. All right. We already clapped, but we're doing it.
So Brittany's really shy, right? My name's Adam Weinberger. I'm the Association First Vice President of the CSCA Board of Directors, and it's an honor to be here. My first time in this as a quaint, small little town, as Brittany told me it was. But CSCA is over 200,000 members throughout the state. And just think, Brittany was one of a handful of members for this year that got this award. And that speaks volumes to not only our members, but Brittany. I haven't known Brittany a long time, but the amount of time that I've known her, I feel like I've known her for forever. That's just the person she is. And what sticks out to me the most is her commitment to mental health. We're still teetering on in this pandemic, and our students have been through the ringer the last couple of years. And Brittany's that calming, caring person, staff member for our kids, our students. Our students need Brittany. We all need Brittany. We all need more Brittany's in this world, in this county, state, world. We all need Brittany. So it's an honor to be here. We need that Brittany too, right there. Just down the street in Patterson. But it's an honor to be here, and I hope you take the time to really congratulate and show your appreciation to this phenomenal member of ours, Brittany. So let's give another big round of applause to Brittany.
I just want to say something really quickly. My name is Anna Ramirez and I'm the regional rep. and at the award ceremony at Vegas. And I want to thank Dr. Posey for your fantastic video. You had another obligation, but thank you for sending your congratulations. That meant a great deal. And thank you so much for your encouragement as well. I just want to say just what Adam had shared is there's 250,000 members up and down the state of California. And the fact that Newman Crow's Landing had a representative of what it is to be a member of the year. You are not just committed to your community, yourself, the students, but your peers, not just within your community, but outside of the community. Many times Brittany has answered the call to action, if you will, at other districts. And as you can see here, we have Turlock, Ceres, Chatham, Patterson, other districts that are here because she has impacted not just her community, but her surroundings. And that's what we're all about, right? Every single person in this room has an impact. You have your sphere of influence. Brittany's sphere of influence just impacts up and down the state of California. But I want to encourage everyone to continue your sphere of influence, whether it be in a classroom or out in the yard duty or your businesses, anywhere, because yes, we matter, you matter. And I just want to say thank you again for recognizing the wonderful things that Brittany does. Thank you.
Sorry if we're being mic hogs, but this is all about Brittany. But Posey, if you can come, please. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We're going to give you this plaque, and hopefully you guys have found a beautiful place for it to hang in on the wall to represent Miss Brittany. And then we're going to take some big pictures over there. Yeah, you want to say
I'm going to
something?
jump on the mic here. I was going to say she's the best I ever worked with, but I've got former coworkers here with me tonight. So I'll say it quietly after they leave. Okay. Yeah. Whisper it. But, you know, I speak on behalf personally, I speak on behalf of the district, on behalf of the board, and it's just thank you. You have no idea. I've seen it firsthand with a single student. I've seen it with a group of kids. I've seen it with your present on campus and the kids knowing you're there. And the kids who you might not even know you're there for them. And it's what we all should aspire to be. You are inspiring. You make me want to be better every day at my job. And I love having you here, and thank you for being part of this community and this district, because you're phenomenal.
Thank you, Brittany, for everything that you do for our community, our schools, just everything. Thank you. Unaudited actuals and do you, clicker gets travel.
Good evening.
Yes, if there's anyone that.
We appreciate you all being here. It
Thank
means so
you.
much to us, but
Yeah, I know how to clear a room.
Thank you.
You like spreadsheets?
Yeah.
Nice job.
Where? Oh, maybe. Okay, good evening. Hard to follow that. So the unaudited actuals this evening is basically a year in review for the last fiscal year. So for school accounting, we use different terms. We use what we call fund accounting, and there are different funds that have different purposes. Fund 01 is our general fund. That's when we talk about our budget, that's the main thing that we're talking about. But there are other special purpose funds that we have. Fund 13, for example, is cafeteria. Fund 14 is deferred maintenance. We don't really use that anymore. Fund 11 is adult ed. The only new one that we have several building funds. And we opened Fund 08 this year, and it's to record the student body activity in our financial statements because it is considered an asset. Last year, the state gave us a way to mitigate our loss of attendance rate. Kids were in school, but there were a lot of absences due to extended illness and having to quarantine, and then there was not a way to make that up. So where we came in actually was 2,845. They gave us a different calculation where we could go with either a 3-year rolling average or the year prior or this different formula. So we were able to take the highest of those three. So what we ended up with was 3,081, which is quite a large difference. And the difference in funding, just that difference made was $2.5 million. So our projections for this year and going forward, they're a little bit skewed where normally we would say, okay, we know what our enrollment is and we'll take what our normal attendance rate is and apply that. And there you go. That's what your ADA is going to be. This year, it's a little bit trickier. We were assuming probably 93%. Last year, our actual ADA was about 89%, which is really low because you typically were over 96%. So when we did the projections, we built it on 93%, which is lower than normal, but higher than last year. But some of these numbers take into account the new formula for the ADA mitigation. So these projections that going forward don't include any new homes because we're not going to count them until we actually see them. We can say, yes, we know that there's going to be so many X number of homes built. Yes, we're planning classrooms for those students, but we're not going to actually count them in the ADA projections until we actually enroll them. So last year we had our final numbers came in at about 49 million, just shy of $50 million in revenue and about $46 million in expenditures. 76% of all of the expenditures went to salary and benefits, and that's for restricted and unrestricted. If we had taken salary and benefits just as a percentage of our unrestricted dollars, it would have been about 95%. So a lot of these are through some of the one-time funding that we have. So our revenue breakdown, you can see here, it's just another way of saying LCFF, the local control funding formula, makes up 72% of our revenue. And then federal funding, even as much as we got last year, was only 8% of everything. So there was a significant amount of state revenue, which we're usually not as high as that, but because of some of the one-time programs, we saw that recognized as about 15%. So how the expenditures came out was, if you see the three biggest parts were salary and benefits. And then I'll go through and show you, we call expenditure by function. How was the money used? Instructional services, which is anything instructionally related, was 67% of the budget. Pupil services, which includes counselors, mental health clinicians, everything of that sort, was 12%. Maintenance and operations was 11%, and then administrative was 8%. So the budget, I do this slide because the budget changes so much during the year, and you kind of get lost in where you think we were gonna start with just under 45 million in revenue. We ended up with just under 50 million. We got some one-time funding. It depends on when we receive the revenue, that's when we recognize it. So you're gonna see these big swings in ending fund balance, because you might track the revenue one year and then track the expenditures next year with nothing to offset it. So we're gonna see some big swings coming up. But you can see where we ended up. We thought we were gonna have an ending balance. We thought we were gonna have a drop at the beginning of the year, but then we ended up with a surplus just because of how the funding changed. But that's for all funds, not just for unrestricted, but it's the restricted dollars as well. So you see our ending balance over time. We have a big spike this year. I would expect that to go down in the next year or two, just because we're not recognizing the revenue, but we will be seeing the expenditure. So it will look like we're deficit spending. And that's just the way that it comes out. But yeah, we are seeing a major spike this year. And that will even out over time. Come on. There we go. So in our capital facilities and building funds, we have several different funds that we work with. The building fund is where bond funds come into. Capital facilities is where developer fees will come into. And then the county schools facility funds, that's where we get any matching funds. So we did get some matching funds this year from, I believe it was the Bonita modernization that we completed in 2016. We got a little bit of capital facility revenue from developer fees. There were a couple of lots that we did. We expect to have some more this year, both from the T Street property and from the Prince Road projects down here. The building fund is where we're paying for the pool and the tennis courts and the rerouting of the high school entrance, and then starting on the Von Renner multi-use room and the TK classrooms. Fund 13 last year had a great year. We served about 888,000 meals last year. And with the implementation of universal meals and really high reimbursement rates, we brought in about $3.2 million, excluding what we do for seniors. And then we have an ending balance of about 1.6 million. And a lot of that is going to go back into equipment and preparing for the new kitchen project at Von Renner. So we will reinvest that into the program. So the investments we've made to date from a lot of this one-time funding, we've expanded our summer educational program. That's part of the funding that we received. A lot of staff professional development for all employees. We adopted new curriculum, and both adoptions for core curriculum and supplemental programs as well. And then we are trying to keep our technology up to date. I believe we have the last of the interactive panels ready to deploy. And then we did some infrastructure on our heating, ventilation, air conditioning units and our air purifiers. The last report that I received is that we don't have any HVAC that's older than 5 years old. So we should be in good shape for a time to come. We are trying to extend out the dollars that we have that of this one-time funding as far out as we can, because we're seeing some good results from the programs that we put into place, and we want to push these as far out as possible. So this year we are continuing the work that we did with the intervention teachers, the additional instructional aid time, expanding the Beyond the Bell opportunities, both through the ELOP program and through the ACES funding. And then next year and beyond, we will evaluate all of those practices to see which ones we will continue beyond. Because at some point we will have to prioritize about what stays and what we may need to reallocate. Okay, there we go. And as Mr. Posey mentioned earlier, I made a one-page document. I have a copy. I've left a copy of it here for your board packet. It has a little more detail than this has, but I want to just point out some key points from this. We do have strong revenue and an ending balance from all of this one-time funding. And we're going to continue to be conservative in our projections. It's always easier to add than to take away later. So we're making some really great investments with the one-time funding that we have. And we look at long-term goals when we are planning these expenditures, so that we're looking long-term, not just short-term. So this just has some key points as far as what is the cost of 1% when we're talking about negotiating, and we're talking about what it would cost for different percentages across the board, how many employees we're talking about, how many full-time equivalents. Yes, we have 412 people that work here. They don't all work full-time. And then the difference in the PERS and STIRS rates for this year. For every dollar of classified payroll that we pay 25 cents of PERS. So anything that we talk about financially with salaries, we have to add on the statutory costs, which is 35%, I think, for classified and 22% for certificated. And then the state funded COLA this year was 6.5%, but that they did a one-time increase to the LCF base of 12.84, and they are different because the 6.5% goes to most categorical programs, but the base fund has to pay for all of our regular ongoing maintenance costs. It's not just salaries, it pays for other things as well. And then you can see that the consumer price index, which is what we use to rate inflation, is 5.75%. So that additional money that was allocated toward the base is eaten up by cost increases. So, and then the lottery funding, a lot of people comment that they think lottery is going to solve the world's problems. And it's basically for both types of lottery this year, we're getting $237 per ADA, not per student, not based on enrollment. And that goes to the sites for their discretionary programs for supplemental materials. Part of that is the Prop 20 lottery, which we reserve back for curriculum. So that goes to any kind of new curriculum adoptions or textbook replacements or anything like that. Does anyone have questions? I'm happy to answer any questions.
Carolyn, I heard something about, or I read something about the state was going to lower, and this of course is rumor as usual, lower the amount of money that districts are going to have to pay for PERS and STIRS for a year or so.
Well, they bought down last year. Part of the one of the one-time things that they did a buyback. So it slowed the rate of increase. It took back about 1%. So basically, it's just increasing a little more slowly than than it would have if they had just left it accelerate. There is no statutory cap on PERS. Right now, there is a cap at 19.10% for STRS, but there is no cap on PERS and what they can do with it.
Okay, thank you.
CSBA asked, but they weren't very willing to give.
Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Mendoza? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Mendoza. Okay, we have, oh, did you have something, Rose? No? Oh.
Adjusting the table.
Oh, sorry. We have a first reading of BP 6143 courses of study, BP 511 students expelled from other districts, BP 5147 dropout prevention, AR 5145.3 non-discrimination harassment, BP, oops, I lost my 5145.2 freedom of speech expression, AR 5145.2 freedom of speech expression, BP 5145.11 questioning and apprehension by law enforcement, AR 5144.4 required parental attendance, BP 5144.4 required parental attendance, AR 5144.2 suspension, expulsion / due process students with disabilities, BP 5143 insurance, and AR 5142.1 identification and reporting of missing children. I went through some of these and they only changed one or two little words. It's like, I thought I had a lot of homework, not really. Okay. Action items, consent calendar. The consent calendar items are routine in nature and usually do not require board discussion. Individual items may be removed by board members and presented for discussion and separate action. The consent calendar will be adopted by a roll call vote. Okay. We have to do a roll call.
You need a
Yeah, I need a motion. So Tim, are you the first motion?
Tim's motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst, Mr. Snodderly,
Son, yo,
Mr. Bazar, and Mrs. Conforti votes aye. It's 5-0. Okay, approve resolution number 22-23/02 compensation for missed meetings. May I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst,
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly,
Aye.
Mr. Bazar,
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti. Was I supposed to read it? Oh. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so you're,
So
I think you recuse yourself.
I'd like to recuse myself from the vote. Thank you.
Ordered.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Approve resolution number 22/23/03, supportive measure D, West Side Community Healthcare District. May I have a motion?
Before you do it, just like
Oh,
make
you
a
want-
quick comment on this. This came to us, Mr. Brazil came and spoke to us about this and you asked to bring this back. This has been put through legal counsel where the words endorsed were removed and support added. We're not allowed to endorse, but we can support. So please remember that if we asked if the board endorsed it, we supported
We support.
the measure, the measure.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept?
Yeah, I would make that.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst,
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly,
Aye.
Mr. Bazar,
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye, 5-0. Approve resolution number 22/22 23/04, adopting the GAN limit. Is there anybody that needs a discussion on GAN? No, okay. May I have a motion?
I'll move for its passage.
May I have a second? Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst? Aye. Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye, passes 5-0. Approve 2022/2023 consolidated application. Motion? Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst? Aye. Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Bizarre? And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. We will discuss the approval of resolution number 22-23/06, designating certain general funds as committed for fund balance. Mrs. Mendoza?
Yeah, Ms. Mendoza, do you want to, because this is new this year, correct? So we're going to take them through this just a little bit.
So what this resolution does, because there was enough money put into the state rainy day fund, now districts are capped at a 10% reserve. So anything over the 10% has to be committed by the board for specific purposes. So what we will do by passing this resolution, this will go into effect a year from now when we close 22-23. And once we see what the final ending balance will be, the board will give direction on how they would like to see those funds committed. We have proposed some suggestions, but it will be up to you to decide at the end how you'd want them, how you would want those
And
excess funds committed.
So like
Yeah.
for June,
Next September.
next September.
And then once they're committed, it would take another resolution to change the commitment on them. So they're
Yes.
Not locked in like forever.
These aren't,
Oh, okay.
these funds can be used for anything.
Yes. So, but at the end of the year, we'll have to close, if we close with a higher than 10% reserve, the board will have to commit
So
those.
we have to say, we had this much extra money, we're gonna use it for, and then come September, we change it.
It gets solidified, or we can change it any month with another resolution. Do you want to take her through what the commitments are on this resolution?
Crazy.
You know what, I don't know if I have a copy.
I know we committed for construction.
For construction, and for future special ed programming. And what was the other?
There was a request to put in for the learning recovery, but there is a lot of state money already ear tagged specifically for that.
That's just-
So we did
Won't fall into that.
ear tag some for a minimum wage restructure.
To
for
address
classified employees to
minimum wage.
make sure we distance their salary from minimum wage. Good. I know, I wish they were all in the room to hear that.
May I have a motion to approval of resolution number 22, bless you, -23/06, designating certain general funds as committed for fund balance. Motion,
I'll make the motion.
second,
I'll second.
Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst. Aye. Mr. Snodderly,
Aye.
Mr. Bizarre.
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Approve 2021-2022 unaudited actuals. Motion? So moved. Second,
I'll second it.
Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst. Aye. Mr. Snodderly,
Aye.
Mr. Bizarre.
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Okay, now, this is the future agenda. We have Citizens Oversight Committee's annual report next month.
Next month, we'll do that. We'll also do the professional development effectiveness, kind of an overview of what we're doing in professional development, how we're monitoring it in the classroom and other places effective, social emotional learning goals and the programs we're doing. We'll have a presentation on that. We'll do a presentation on our pool curriculum and how we're putting that together. So this will be at least 4 information.
And if any board member has something that they want to be discussed specifically in those areas, please get to the front office to Nancy, Mrs. Fox, before Tuesday, Wednesday. Is that as quickly as possible, but
quickly as
no
possible,
later than
please.
Wednesday, please. Okay. Okay, superintendent's report.
Thank you. We attended or the administrators did, and I was there too, I guess. Project Appleseed training where brought in gentlemen to speak on how his district and his program really increases not just community involvement in the schools or parent volunteerism in the school, but also our capacity to handle it. And I think that sometimes our capacity to handle volunteers gets in the way of parents volunteering. And so it's a way to look at, what if we had every parent want to volunteer in the school? Could we support that as they showed up on our doorstep on a Monday morning and said, I'd love to volunteer. And so we'll be working more on that. That's going to be a future report for you. We attended twice I got to go and they were great both times. Joe Sanfilippo's keynote today. He's the superintendent from, I say Apple Falls, but Fall Creek. I don't know where I got Apple. Fall Creek, Wisconsin, the Mighty Crickets. And so gave a great presentation on getting our message out and how everybody really leads from their position, that you don't need to have a designated title of manager or superintendent or administrator to be a leader, and talking about how to change culture in every 30-second meeting you have. And it was really not just entertaining, but really a powerful message about what we can do to really change cultures and get the best out of our schools. I also attended a meeting on dual enrollment at Modesto Junior College, and an option that would really not have any effect on us, but the students actually concurrently take the second semester of their U.S. History College prep class at the same time as being enrolled in History 102 at Modesto Junior College, taught asynchronously, a word I don't even have to explain anymore. I used to have to explain what that word means, but we all know that now. And basically it's 50-hour seats from the junior college, asynchronous, and then there's 40 more hours from the high school history teacher. And then the student would get both the high school grade and the junior college grade. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same grade. So the high school teacher could supplement the JC's work, could provide assistance in completing some of the JC's programming. It's really up to that teacher on what they do with that extra time. And no cost to the student, no cost to the district. And it's we are. This is designed for en masse, really. What they're looking to do is you could take a class of students and all 30 students can enroll at JC and do this program while they're in their history class. So it's not separate. It's a way to get more kids involved in the dual enrollment. The concept is that the junior college would come out and enroll all the kids, because I know that's been a barrier. JC has not been easy to work with on this, but that's what JC, and I heard that across the board. And then when I mentioned it to our site administrators, they said exactly the same thing from what other superintendents been saying. They're not easy to work with on dual enrollment. So this would be a commitment from them to come out, work with the students. And it's really designed specifically not for your advanced placement student. They shouldn't be in it. It's really designed for your college prep student. And the reason being is your advanced placement student more than likely still wants that extra grade point on their grade to get into be competitive at the university admissions, which you wouldn't get in this program because it's not an AP program. But the college prep student would truly be getting prepped for what their experience is going to be in college, which generally is leaning towards async learning at the junior college level. It has many, many benefits, including increasing our college career ready, because that is one of the ways to check off whether you're college career ready is to have dual enrollment at a junior college. So there's a possibility we'll be bringing more back to you as we get to know more. And then on the sad note, I did attend Yamlet Madrigal's funeral on Saturday. I appreciate everybody who showed up, and the Hunt family was there in force, and Lupe was there as well. And a very impressive showing. Probably easily 500, 600 people. And she was well loved and she'll be missed. And we ask you keep her family in your thoughts and prayers. at this time. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Posey. Mr. Bizarre?
Well, I took part in that meeting that we had where we were talking about the data points and kind of report we want presented to the board during the year. And I thought it was worthwhile and well done. From my point of view, I think one of the most important things about this reports, though, is that the information be current. I have been very frustrated over my 10 or 11 years on the board in trying to understand the state testing and how we compare with other districts and that type of thing. And to me, one of the, maybe the major obstacle is the fact that the information is always so late. It arrives a year, sometimes a year and a half late. And by that time, you don't even know where the students are who took those tests. I mean, maybe they're still in our next class or the one after that, or maybe they're not. And similarly, when you try to compare with another district 2 years in the future or 2 years in the past, you don't know whether the other districts made major changes and you're not comparing with anybody who's still around or any programs that are still in existence. And so it's just worthless or very close to worthless. So I'm optimistic that if we do have reports that are current, we can make decisions that will hopefully be wise, or at least fairly well informed. Maybe it'll be wise. Anyway, that's my report. I think this is a good step, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we do with it.
Thank you, Mr. Bizarre. Mrs. Hurst?
I too got to attend those two workshops, the one with the data, the state of the schools, and the iReady. And they were both excellent. However, today's presentation meant so much more to me. And one of the things that Joe Sanfilippo said is that data does not drive the story. In other words, the story is paying homage to all the people that are out here doing everything for us day to day for our students and our community. So data's fine, but I'd rather hear the story.
Thank you, Mrs. Hurst. Mr. Snodderly?
Just some comments. I'll be nice. I don't know why they took my microphone. I have no idea. The dual enrollment is a very good program. I did it for years down in Clary County with my high schools. Partnered with Porterville College, and you're absolutely right. It wasn't our kids that were going on to four-year colleges. It was our two-year college kids. Porterville College provided a bus to get kids back and forth, and it was just a big hit. Got a lot more kids to graduate than we could have before, so that's a great idea. And on your, the other thing I have is, I'm sorry I missed your workshop, but as I was going through this, I said, oh my gosh, this sounds like my philosophy of education class way back. And then you mentioned you like doing philosophy, and I said, oh, okay, now I know where we're going. It's a great thing, a good thing overall. It's going to take a lot of work, and just, I'm sure you know this, things change over time, so, it's got to be a living, breathing document. And then really the last thing is, anyone talk to our high schoolers that are interested in water sports? Are we getting that organized, or do we know, or?
Yeah, Labno put out a survey. Mr. Labno, our athletic director, put out a survey. I want to think it was like in last May that he put it out. And we are anticipating having a swimming team, as small as it may be, that'll be the sport in the spring, and then water polo in the fall.
Yeah, I was just curious to see, what kids are thinking, on the campus.
There was an interest. Yeah, there was an interest in the swim team.
Awesome.
Yeah, it'll grow as you get the summer clubs going, of course, but there wasn't an immediate
Sure will.
interest.
It looks good. I got back in town and, I don't know why I focused on a swimming pool. There are a lot of other things in this town that I could be, champions for. But the whole project looks good over there. The campus looks good, really proud of all the maintenance guys and principal and everybody that's putting a lot of work into that place.
I have been overly impressed with the contractor and his foresight and ability to identify like problems, even in like student walk pathways, and be able to kind of give us advice about wouldn't do it that way right now. And they've hit their timelines. We're looking good. As long as it doesn't rain, although we would take it. So it's kind of a tough not to root for rain.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Mr. Wallace?
I'll start by comment, Mr. Snodderly. Back in the day, long ago, long before Julene was with us, there was a West Side Stingrays team that was a very successful swimming team. They swam out of the pool that was probably torn down before you were born, wasn't it, Jolene? Yeah, I think it probably was torn down before you were born. But there was a very successful large swim team that had gone on for quite a while. Am I right, Mrs. Betancourt? Because you had swimmers. Yep. So there is a history in this town of supporting swim meets and swimmers. So yeah, hopefully.
It's another tool to keep kids in school.
Absolutely, yeah. And we certainly can use it in the weather we have out here. I did something really cool in my CSBA stuff. I went up to the foothills and heard a presentation on, I think it's crisis management system. It's the system that like the fire department or the FAA would use if a plane crashed on a campus or something like that. And it's, setting an incident commander and who they report to. But it was the focus, it was presented by a fireman who is a previous school board member, really talking about where the school fits. And we really fit right next to that. We have to have a whole. And so it was really fascinating to think through, how you set that up and how we need to practice it. And I think that, I had a chance to talk to Mr. Posey. I think we do some of this practice stuff, but you just think about the police are there and they're like, we need to get into room 7. Well, the principal doesn't run with a key to room 7 and open it up. The principal stays there with the police incident commander and knows who she's going to send to her room 7, who's got a key, who can do it, and all that kind of stuff. And then also all the as it's going on, there's all this backup that goes on. There's the accounting side of it because the state only accepts, on these forms or whatnot. And you've got to keep track. Well, we had 192 students on campus that we didn't release because there was a gas leak in front. This is what we fed them. Please give us our money back, Mr. Governor. So it was really interesting to listen to that perspective and think about, keeping our kids safe and how we do that. For those of you up front, and if any of you know any school board members, please tell them to come. But as director of CSBA in this region, yes, Mrs. Fox, this is you too. I try and do some meetings where just board members can get together and chat. I've scheduled one for the 28th at Grizzly Rock, the cafe at 99 and Taylor Road. And we will talk about school safety and what that mean in your district. All this is just kind of around the table. We have some real open-ended conversations that we can't really have in a structured meeting like this. And so you get a chance to kind of hear, hey, what does school security mean to you? And you get a chance to chat back and forth with your peers. And then also we'll go around the room with either what's up at your district or what's on your school board mind. And get a chance to hear what your fellow board members. It's the corner of Highway 99 and Taylor Road in Grizzly Rock. It's a cafe. And so you can.
What city?
Oh, Turlock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Kind of between. Yeah, Taylor Road and Turlock.
I go better. Okay, I'll find out where it is. Okay, thank you.
28th,
28.
6 p.m. So please encourage all the school board members that you hang around with all the time. They're welcome to come.
Okay.
6 p.m. 6 p.m.
Okay. Jolene, do you have anything that you'd like to say? No, okay, just wanted to double check with you. I'd like to say thank you for Ms. Clark, who, I keep saying we're a diamond that's in the rough and we have to get polished every once in a while. And it's nice to be polished from a large group of people throughout the state, but also yourselves. Please, take some time off for yourself occasionally. I'd also like to say, thank the maintenance staff for everything that they've done to keep our children safe during this heat. And administrators, I know it was hard to keep some children, keep them in during recess when it was 111 degrees. It really takes a lot to, and save the bell or back the bell, whatever the bell is. It just is, we've gone through a terrible time of heat, and it worried me about the students. And I'd like to say thank you to everyone, and be safe. Enjoy the cool weather. And I'm done. Is there anyone else? No. Thank you. I would like to call this meeting to an end at 7:25. Thank you.